Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's March 22nd, 2026. I'm Marie Johnson, and you are listening to Histories of Horror.
And I'm AO Knuckles. Welcome back. Tonight, we're looking at a case that just didn't break a community, it polarized the nation. It's a story about two young people with the world at their feet who took a wrong turn into a nightmare that felt scripted for a horror film, but was chillingly real.
We're going back to January 2007, Knoxville, Tennessee. Channon Christian and Christopher-Newsom were the all American couple, young, athletic, and deeply in love. But on a cold Saturday night, a simple plan to go to a friend's party turned into a descent into the absolute darkest corners of human depravity.
To understand the terror of that night, you have to look at the location. Chipman Street was a desolate stretch in an industrial area. When Channon's SUV was spotted, the trap was already set. This wasn't a crime of opportunity that went wrong. It was a predatory ambush by five individuals who saw two innocent people as nothing more than prey.
While the world still thought they were missing, the first discovery was made. Christopher Newsom's body was found near the railroad tracks. The level of violence used against him before he was killed was a grim harbinger of what Shannon was still enduring blocks away inside a small, unassuming house.
Inside that house, the monsters Cy and I talk about weren't hiding under the bed. They were the occupants. For hours, Shannon Christian was subjected to torture that defies description. It wasn't just violence, it was a systematic stripping away of humanity.
When investigators finally entered the house, they find Shannon, not in a room, but in a trash can. A medical examiner's report remains one of the most harrowing documents in Tennessee legal history. It wasn't just how she died, it was the sheer cruelty of the moments leading up to it.
Lamarcus Davidson, Levitilus Cobbin, George Thomas, Vanessa Coleman, and Eric Boyd. These are the names forever etched into this tragedy. We're going to break down how a group of drifters and criminals coalesced into a unit of pure destruction.
This case became a lightning rod because of the racial dynamics. The victims were white and the perpetrators were black. The media coverage, or the perceived lack thereof, sparked a firestorm of hate crime allegations and protests that nearly tore Knoxville apart.
Just when the families thought they had closure, the unthinkable happened. The presiding judge, Richard Baumgardner, was discovered to be a drug addict who had been purchasing pills from the defendants in his own court. This revelation threw every single conviction into jeopardy.
Imagine being the Christian or Newsom families. You've sat through the grisly details once. Now, because of a judge's corruption, you have to hear about the trash can, the tracks, and the torture all over again. We look at the resilience of the parents, Gary and Dina, who became the faces of victim advocacy.
After years of legal maneuvering and new trials, the final sentences were handed down, multiple life sentences and a death penalty. But does the finality of the gavel ever really end for those at the end of the horror for those left behind?
The darkness, the families fought for change. We discussed the legislative impact this case had on Tennessee law, ensuring that future victims' families wouldn't have to endure the same judicial circus that they did. And let's note that Tennessee is constantly making new laws, some of which right now I have to stop and pause for a minute and go a little off script, are absolutely freaking atrocious. First is the transgender law and the attacking of transgenders, wanting to put them all in established lists as if they were predators in the state. And secondly, the way that they have completely removed and restricted any form of women's rights in the state is an absolute, complete, disgusting debacle. And having lived in the state, I am completely appalled at the history of the way things are going.
Same here. Having been born and raised there, it's just appalling.
Well, I'm kind of just left on this note that this was a heinous crime that happened to the Christian and Muslim families, and we want to, of course, hold space for their names and elevating them as we do on every show. But the most important thing here is to recognize that a lot of this goes back to the root cause. And if we notice here, there was this division and these arguments that caused such protesting and rioting that Knoxville was nearly torn apart by people on polar opposite spectrums who, at the end of the day, were both being completely utilized by a corrupt system of judiciary powers And that is the problem at large, my friends.
Mhm.
The root cause here, if there's ever anything that we can teach you on histories of horror, is that intersectionality will come and bring things to light that you would be so astonished by. And 9 times out of 10, the reason why crimes like this are allowed to become the histories of horror that they become is because of a lack of integrity on the behalf of the officials who have the authority to do something about it, who are 9 times out of 10 actually perpetuating the problem themselves and capitalizing off of doing so.
Mhm.
This Richard Baumgartner is a prime example of what a dirty judge looks like, my friends.
I agree. As we close tonight, we look at the memorials: two scholarships, two lives cut short, and a city that is still nearly 20 years later healing from the scars of Chipman Street.
Absolutely. Join us next time as we continue to peel back the layers of the past right here on Histories of Horror. Good night, everyone.
Good night.